And the biggest impossibility is feeling like you have to know everything, feeling like you're not allowed to say sorry, you have to, and you're not allowed to express fear. His humanity, his changeability, he's programmed to develop. And if you develop, it means you've got to get better. Budget film, made in Australia, but we screened it all over Australia and all the film festivals around Australia, so it did very, very well. And I went to about maybe 6 different screenings, and the reception was extremely warm, and there was a lot of enjoyment of the film during the screening. So the reception here is a little different, but that's a cultural difference. It's just a way in which people take on film, listen to film, and I know that we are very different cultures. But I think the appreciation was definitely there because we talked to a number of people afterwards, and there was some wonderful. Some people were very, very moved. So it's been great to bring it here and screen it here.
I loved how the two characters who are polar opposite. They are polar opposite in personalities and demeanors, but how they managed to find common ground through the movie. Is that an aspect of the film that interested you too before taking it on?
Yeah, I was fascinated with the whole idea of prosecuting men's mental health, and when trauma happens to someone, when someone experiences a loss of a friend, or a loss of a partner, or a loss of a child, what does that bring about in them, and how do they seek help? And in our film, the help is not really directly sought, but two men realize they're in each other's orbit, and although they're diametrically opposed, they've both suffered some sort of trauma, and so they sort of weirdly bonded together through trauma, which isn't to say that there's not a lot of humor and chaos in the film and in the relationship. It feels like it's at the heart of that particular relationship is misunderstanding, but through misunderstanding you get a better sense of who you are in comparative to the other person. So
it's good that it touches upon mental health in such a way, because mental health is still quite a taboo topic. I mean, I would like to know how is it in Australia, because in India, speaking about mental health itself has its taboos, and when it comes to men, it is even a bigger taboo, because people generally expect men to be stronger, to put on a facade, to not make a big deal about it. Usually don't make a big deal about it. Carry on.
I think it's a huge thing in Australia, and I'm pretty sure it's a huge thing, maybe even a bigger thing in India, actually. Because of the way in which men feel, as you say, have to be in control, have to provide, have to be calm, have to be intelligent, have to have all the answers, have to know how to fix the car and fix this and do this. So that's a male role, which is impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And the biggest impossibility is feeling like you have to know everything, feeling like you're not allowed to say sorry, you have to, and you're not allowed to express fear, sadness, disappointment. You have to keep a lid on everything. It's an impossible construct to maintain, and it's something that all men in any patriarchal society have to face, have to deal with, and until men can deal with that impossible construct, and until men are able to express things which up until now they haven't been able to express, then women are going to suffer and families are going to suffer. So it's a huge, huge issue around the world. It always has been, and it always will be, but hopefully not forever. Hopefully we'll get to a place where men will relinquish this crazy notion that they have to be better than women, that they have to know better, they have to be able to do everything. So it's doing a film like The Rooster and another film which I've done, which is based on a similar subject, and it starts to make you think, well, how do you get out of this construct? And it's about saying sorry, it's about saying I don't know, and it's about opening up your heart and allowing yourself to be, for want of a better word, weak, because weakness is human, so it's fine.
Thank you. I mean, the guy who played Agent Smith, the guy who played Elron, so bravely does these roles. That speaks volumes, and hopefully, men out there can take inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Speaking about your most iconic role, obviously, you know what I'm going to touch upon. Agent Smith. It's the most iconic role you have played, not just in Hollywood, across the world. It's a phenomenon. What do you think? So, Matrix made a global phenomenon across the world, even in India, when Hollywood movies weren't that big in the 90s. I remember when Matrix came and its sequel, especially, Bollywood movies were flopping left, right, and center. People did not want to release their films. But what made it such a big phenomenon? And also a little bit of working with Keanu Reeves. We know he's a very good martial artist.
Well, I think The Matrix was a completely imagined world, a completely imagined world. So it was a sort of unique, creative construct, and it also was technologically innovative. So a lot of the techniques used in the film were developed for the film. So it was visually exciting. It was brilliantly thought through, planned, and written by two very key creative characters, who then brought a great team with them. So and then one of the studios got behind them, saw that they were really interesting filmmakers because of their film they'd made before called Bound. And so I think, there was money plus creativity plus imagination plus skill enabled The Matrix to be made. To go back to your previous question,
Keanu.
In terms of Agent Smith,
Yeah.
he's a construct, but the reason why he's an interesting construct, he's a classic male construct, and that's how he was designed, to be one-dimensional in his thinking, unbeatable. So everything you want to be as a male, in a way, is embodied in Smith, and yet his humanity, his changeability, he's programmed to develop. And if you develop, it means you've got to get better. And what's interesting about Smith is that getting better for Smith is becoming more human, therefore means becoming weaker, because he starts feeling, he starts getting angry, he starts having emotions. And that's what makes him an iconic character, is that he's a construct who then starts to become weaker because of his humanity. So weakness is a critical, essential element to being a man and to being a human being.
Wow.
And working with Keanu Reeves was a delight. He's a beautiful man. Everyone says Keanu Reeves the most gorgeous actor I've ever met. He's a very beautiful soul, very soulful. I got on incredibly well with him. It was a real pleasure to meet him and to work with him and to consider him a friend. I haven't spoken to him for a couple of years. I haven't seen him for even longer, but I'm very, very, very fond of Keanu.
Why we didn't see you in the latest Matrix movie?
Lana wanted me to be in it. I wanted to be in it, but it's a very long story, so I won't go into all the details. But essentially, I was working on something else at the time. There were some date issues and scheduling issues, and also I wanted to be part of the ongoing family, but I wasn't actually sure whether the idea of doing another Matrix film was a good idea. I voiced those concerns, but then even so, I said to Lana I was in, and then in the end she made the decision not to include me, but that was partly from her perspective to do with scheduling. So it's a complex answer, but essentially it's a scheduling issue.
We were robbed of seeing you with Priyanka Chopra. I was actually looking forward to that. This is a golden opportunity to clarify it. I will never get a chance to clarify it before. Is it true that Will Smith, Nicolas Cage both turned down the role of Neo, and the Wachowskis initially wanted Johnny Depp, but finally the studio went with Keanu Reeves?
I think that's correct. Yes, I think that's correct. But who can go past Keanu, really?
They said, I think the stars align for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I need
but
to
it's
ask.
just like any casting for anything. The person who becomes the iconic character, then once that film's made, you can't see anyone else.
Anybody.
But Keanu is, So how could Nicholas play Cage play Neo.
Yeah, okay. I got to ask you, what is you have played another famous character, Elrond, in the Lord of the Rings. What is it about Lord of the Rings that till date, so many fantasy films have come after that, nothing has been able to match up to Lord of the Rings. It's always been it's become the benchmark, and B, there are very few book to screen adaptations where people actually probably prefer the movie better. Jaws comes to mind, Godfather comes to mind, and then LOTR. So what is it about Lord of the Rings that achieved both this?
Well, I think the original source material was fully realized. Again, like The Matrix, it's a fully created world with languages. Lord of the Rings, Tolkien created an Elvish language, a number of different languages, because he was a linguist, he was a great scholar. So Lord of the Rings is a fully realized world that was written during a time that our world was in crisis. So Tolkien was worried about the war, World War II. He was worried about Nazi Germany. He was worried about ideologies taking over the world. So his world, was in a critical place. And when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, so it comes from an important place, and then it's a fully realized other world. So if you want to make a seriously good fantasy film, that fantasy better be fully realized. Otherwise, it's just going to be just some whole lot of weird looking people with funny ears and funny wigs and crowns, and it has to be a fully realized world, and it really has to say something about the world in which we live now. Otherwise it has no relevance. So great sci-fi, for instance, even though it's set in the future, always says something about now, who we are now, our political systems, our problems. Fantasy does the same thing. It can't just be so fantastical that it has no relevance to us. So.
I've got a call up. So before winding up, it's a very important question. We have seen a lot of Australian actors, along with Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, Mel Gibson, one of my favorite actors, Nicole Kidman, and we see plenty of Irish actors, Hispanic actors, all making waves in Hollywood. What do you think, sir, it's about Asian actors that we generally do not see that? I mean, you must have definitely heard about Shah Rukh Khan and the likes of them, but they are not really making their mark in Hollywood, either due to lack of effort or due to lack of roles written over there. What do you think about Asian actors?
I don't know. I think there are racist elements involved in all of these questions, actually, to be honest. And also, look, I personally don't want to make it in Hollywood, so I would say that's not necessarily the be-all and end-all. Maybe concentrate on making good films in India for your own culture, first and foremost. And if those films are really great films, maybe they will then travel. And the thing that makes people interested about India are the things that make India Indian. So the world is only interested in who you are. The world is not really interested in you trying to be like them, because actually they've got enough people being like them anyway. And that's always been my attitude towards cultures. Why I work in Australian film. I've never lived in Hollywood. I hate Hollywood. I have worked there, but I don't project myself onto it. Someone like Hugh Jackman works in America. He doesn't very often work in Australia. Yeah. So yes, he's an Australian actor, and he's a lovely, lovely man, by the way. But I don't want to be like that. I want to work in, and similarly, Indian actors, stay in India and work here and project your culture to the world. You're doing it very well anyway.
Before signing off, which Indian movies or Indian actors do you think are the most popular in Australia?
Oh, I'm not into popular culture. Okay. I don't know anything about popular culture, so I'm the worst person to ask. But if you're talking about Indian movies and Indian directors, Anand Gandhi is a very special soul. And
ship of thesis.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Hugo. It was wonderful talking to you. Excellent points. It's a wonderful interview.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.